Hiya, welcome back to my channel, and we've got another video about my YB powered Mark 1 Escort. Continuing on with the theme of snags and upgrades, we've got some interesting content for you this time round. You're actually going to see me doing some work for a change, so it was a bit difficult to video, but I hope I sort of captured it, and I hope you find it interesting. So let's get on with it. So while the car was on the wheel alignment rig, having the geometry all set up, I noticed a load of oil on the back axle and around my brake disc on this side of the car, and it looked like it was coming out of the joint between the axle casing and the Group 4 hub. So that's something else to fix. So let's get into it, and I'll show you what I'm doing there. Right, so the car's jacked up, wheels off, and then we can have a better look at what we're doing. So what we got here is an all singing, all dancing Group 4 fully floating twin taper bearing 2-piece shaft back axle. What does all that actually mean? Well, the Group 4 bit actually only relates to the axle casing. So it's an Atlas axle casing from a Ford Capri, and the Group 4 bit is simply just the brackets for a 4-link kit, and the brackets for turreted dampers, and also then on the back you either have a panhard rod or a Watts linkage, and that is the Group 4 bit. The fully floating twin taper hub is this bit, and the 2-piece shaft just means that the drive shaft is splined onto the hub, and it's in 2 pieces. Normally the drive shaft, when you pull the drive shaft out, the hub is welded onto it and it's part of the hub. The fully floating twin taper bit is the bit we're interested in. So normally a semi-floating axle just has a small bearing and the shaft passing through the bearing, and the outside of the bearing is held within the axle tube, on the inside of the axle tube. Then there's a bearing, then your shaft passes through it, whether it's got a 2-piece or a 1-piece shaft. It doesn't really make much of an odds. And the concern there is there's a lot, all the weight, the whole weight of the whole car and all the load of the suspension is on that single bearing within the shaft, within the tube, axle tube. On this setup, the bearings are on the outside of the axle, and there's 2 of them in here, and there's 2 taper roller bearings, so they're much larger, much larger diameter, and all of the weight of the car is held on the axle case itself, not on the half shaft, and the half shaft's only 1 inch thick, which is why they snap if you put too much load through them. So basically it's just a much more beefed up and heavy duty setup that they had from about the mid-70s onwards. And now what I need to do is I need to get this half shaft out, and I should be able to do that by taking these 2 grub screws out, and the shaft will pull out, leaving me with the fully floating hub. And I'll need to get my tools out and I'll release that off, and I'll show you what we're trying to fix. On the inside is all this oil. You see, it's all over my shock. It's emanating out from that joint between the black axle casing and the inside of the tube, and you can see where it's flung out. So it's covered my brake disc, covered my caliper and my pads, so I've got no back brake, and it's all over my axle tube, my shock, and up inside the wheel arch, and it's flung all my diff oil everywhere. So hopefully it's just going to replace a case of replacing the seals. The first thing I need to do is get it off, so let me do that. So with the half shaft out, we can see a lot more now. So this is the half shaft along with the flange, and you can, that is a beefy fucking half shaft, that is. It's actually from Squires Brothers, and it's listed as their unbreakable drive shaft. It's there's 18 splines on the end as opposed to 22 on an English axle. So this is going into an Atlas limited slip diff. It's a gripper unit. So yeah, just go over the fully floating thing again. A semi-floating axle, the shaft sort of floats in the diff end, in the side gears, and then at this end there's a bearing directly on the shaft. So this is your axle tube on the inner here, and you'd have a bearing in there, and inside there would go your axle shaft. So all the weight from the wheel and the wheel studs through the hub, if you like, through this bit on a normal axle, is transmitted via the shaft directly through the bearing onto the axle case. So all the weight of the car is on the shaft. But with this setup, there's a bit welded on the outside. We'll just get rid of that O-ring. And the bearings are on the outside of the axle tube, and then the hub sits on the outside of those, and all the studs are directly on the hub. So all the weight of the car through the wheel studs is taken through this big hub and two taper roller bearings, one at the back, one at the front, and there's no load on the shaft. These studs pass through the hub, and that's how you get drive to the from your studs to your back axle through your diff, like that. So the way we take this off is, first of all, that O-ring is secured in place by an O-ring carrier. So let me just peel that out. So there's your O-ring carrier. Okay, pop that down there. And then there's this locking nut, which is a split collar. See that split there? So there's a bolt going through there that pinches that up and makes that tight, and that's how you adjust the wheel bearing free plate. And there's a handy little hole here which is tapered in, so you pop an Allen key in there, and then let's get it in right. There we go. Okay, I don't know if you can get that on the camera. Obviously I've twist it. So the Allen key is passing through the outer hub into the head of the bolt, which is an Allen key, and you loosen that off. Okay, so that split ring is now loose, and then you use a tool like this, which locates in there, and I can't do it one-handed, so I'm going to undo that nut, which will undo that split collar and allow me to take the whole hub and break this assembly off. Obviously I've already removed the caliper. That's tied up with a bit of wire, so there's no stress on the brake line. You can see my pads are covered in fucking axle oil on the inside, so they're fucking scrap. But yeah, let's get this hub off and have a look at those seals. Yeah, so there we go. That's the problem child. There's a seal there. That's the one that's leaking, and that seal sits on this surface. So this is where the bearings sit, inner and outer. You can just see the shadows. This is welded to the axle, this collar here. So that bit there is welded on for a fully floating hub. And the powder coating sort of in some places encroaches into where the lips, you can see where the lips of the seals have been running. So I'm going to have to sand some of that. I think that's what the problem is. The powder coating's a bit too far up, and the seals, it's ripped the seal. So yeah, you can see the size of the bearings, big taper roller bearings. If I flick that round, we have a look in the hub. One's in there, the other one's out. That's that locking collar. So there's my tool. So there's the split collar that screws onto that thread, and that tensions the two taper roller bearings. And then there's the hex bolt on the side that's accessed through the hole in the side of the hub. for the Allen bolts here. Yeah, release the tension on that. This side, by the way, is a left-hand thread on the left-hand side of the car, and the other side will be a right-hand thread, just in case you're struggling like I was. I better look at the pads again. Look at the fucking axle all over my brake pads. But we now know the problem. I've got the seals. I've got that big seal that goes behind the brake disc. So I'm going to have to pop that brake disc off, take that seal out. Then there's the O-ring that sat on there, if you remember, around the outside. And there's also a smaller seal on the inside. In fact, here they are. Here's an axle set. So we've got the O-rings and the big seal and the little seal. So those three seals are what's needed. But it was the big one at the back that was the problem. And I think the problem was that if you look at the powder coating line, you can see it's a bit squiffy. In focus, yeah. So I'm going to sand that back, fit the seals and reassemble. And I'll put the camera down because it really slows me down when I've got to try and talk and video and work at the same time. And I want to get this thing back on the road. So I'll see you in a bit. So here was the problem. There was paint on this area, and there is a handy little line, sort of groove machined in to this spigot to tell you where the bearing seal is going to run. So I had to scrape it off with the powder coat with a really sharp blade carefully. And then I used some 380 grit emery cloth to smooth it all off, all the way around. So that's all done now. Calipers cleaned up. The grease got all the oil and shit off that. Got all the oil and shit off. All the inner arch, off the shock, off the rest of the axle. I fitted a new oil seal inside because that was ripped. So there's a new oil seal in there. The new oil seal is in the back of the main hub. I've cleaned all the grease and axle oil off the brake disc. Cleaned all inside the hub. So that's a closer look in the hub. The one taper roller, it comes in from the one side behind the oil seal. This big taper roller bearing goes on the hub like that. So then that whole lot then goes onto that little stub axle type thing, and all the load is on the outside of the axle, leaving the shaft just to do the turny stuff. So it's pretty heavy duty, but once you break it all down, it's all mechanically, it's relatively simple. So I'm going to throw it together and stick some new brake pads in, and hopefully no more leaks. Yeah, so we're back up in the air again after fixing that side. Taking it for a drive, everything was cool. Come back, checked it again. This side bloody leaking. Same issue. The powder coat had extended beyond this line and come into the area where the seal runs. So I've scraped it all back, sanded it down with some really fine emery. Got a nice smooth surface on there now for the oil seal to run, and then I've just got to change the seal. So let me take you over. So this is my dirty shed. This is where all the dirty work gets done. All my cutting, grinding, polishing, sanding. A big extractor over there keeps all the shit out. And this is what we got. So this is the fully floating Group 4 hub. You can see the races inside where the twin taper roller bearings run. Those massive Group 4 studs run all the way through. And I've got internal threads on to bolt the discs. So here's my bearings. the brake disc. I've cleaned all the grease and oil off the disc. Give it a quick clean up. And let me try and video, mate, sticking that lot back together. Okay, so first of all is the back bearing. Both taper roller bearings are the same. They're pretty big ones. Here's one I've pre-greased. Even though it's probably going to be full of diff oil, make it in there, you still need to grease these bearings up. Just a little slip. Right, get rid of that. The oil seal. This is the one that tore out last time because of the powder coating, and all the oil made its way out and over the brake disc. So pop that in gently, and then I'm going to use, I drew up a little drawing, and I had this disc turned up by my mate Paul to help me drift it in. It's just about half a mil. The bearing, the seal is 85mm diameter, and I've drawn this drift up to be 84, so I've got half mil all the way around. It should go in. What I can't afford to do is damage this seal lip here or kink it. So to make it nice and even, this aluminium drift, it's nice and soft, but it should it will get in there. The idea of the long post is it's easier to keep it square. So that's now touching on the bearing, so I can get rid of that. Back to my drift. Done. Okay, that's the bearing in. The sealing, no damage to that. That's all fine. Here's a mucky job. Then the disc. This disc is I think it started life as a Peugeot disc. I'm not exactly sure which model or which year. Certainly the centre board's been machined out because that's much larger than I can see in the catalogues. And also the bolt holes have been machined out, and I'll show you what that is in a minute. But yeah, the centre board's been machined out, so it's larger than this. But I think the base disc, it's probably like a Peugeot 206 or something like that, from that era. And it goes on. So yeah, these holes have been bored out so they can go around the outside of these studs and locate on the wheel studs. And then the bolts that secure it to the hub have got these little top hat washers on, like that. And what we do, needs a little drop of Loctite on the threads. This is a medium strength retainer. You don't want to smother them, just a squirt at the top, and then use the tip to run it round. That's plenty. Probably a bit too much, but I don't expect them to be coming off anytime soon. So I'm going to run these down and torque them up, and I'll see you back at the car and we'll get them fitted onto the axle. Okay, so just before we put the hub and disc assembly on, there's another oil seal in there inside, and it's this seal goes inside this adapter on the end of the Atlas axle tube, and it seals around the drive shaft. So I'll just use my little hooked seal puller out of her. That's that. Scrap the old one. Sort of press it into place, and then I've got a 40mm seal drift. Okay, so that's that seal in. Then I can put my hub assembly. I've already put the outer bearing in and greased it all up, and that will just go on. Like a glove. Oh, my torch. Hang on. There we go. Put a bit of light on. Just get rid of some of the excess that's peeled off. Okay. Then that split retaining nut with the special tool, right hand side, so it's a right hand thread, so clockwise to get it on. It's a fine thread, so just getting it started. There we go. Well, you don't need a lot of torque on these, just needs to be nipped so it runs free without any play. Obviously I'm going to wipe the disc surface down with brake cleaner because I've got grease all over it, but okay, cool. Then I'll wiggle my tool off. And that's pretty much, the location of that split there is pretty much where it was when I took it all off. So I know I'm in the right idea. Then I've got to pop my Allen key in using this hole. Come round here, so it sort of goes at that angle to get the screw that's across that split, and that will lock that up. Then what goes on after that is another O-ring which sits there, and it stops any shit coming out between the hub and the flange, the wheel flange, and it's retained with this O-ring retainer, and that slips around the outside. Now this one was seized in there when I was taking it all apart. It would not fucking budge, no way. And I tried everything. I tried heat and I tried picking it out and walking it out. It wasn't having it. And in the end, I had to take the fucking chisel to it. So I took the chisel to it. I got it out so I could do my job. And I'm just waiting for one to turn up. So as if by magic, the postman's been and brought me 2 packages today. The first one is the most important one. Let's have a look at this. So this is my O-ring retainer. Back to that in a second. And then next is this from Retro Ford magazine. So I've got in there's an 8-page feature all about the build of the car. So you can get that in the shops now, or if you're a bit late to the party, you can go on the Retro Ford website and order a back issue. Anyway, back to the important stuff. So before I put this in, and this did catch me out, taking it apart, once this is in, you can see how deep it is. That's the hole to get your Allen key in, like right. It obscures the hole, so this has got to go in afterwards. So I get the Allen key, put it in the hole, and I'm trying to tighten up the countersunk Allen head that's going to pinch that clamp nut together. So there we are, in it. And you don't need to wang it, just needs a good nip. There you go. So that's done. Bearings at the right tightness, there's no play. So I learned by mistake, this time I'm going to give this ring just a slip of grease to hopefully stop it from seizing against the aluminium hub. And I'll push that in there. Lovely jubbly. And then that gives you, because of the step on the lip and then the bore of the alloy hub, that gives you a groove then to put the O-ring. Now, I don't know about you, but I always have trouble trying to put O-rings in grooves like this. And there always seems to be a bit poking out too big. So a little trick that I've always done in the past is to pop it in the freezer, and that shrinks it down a bit and allows me to seat the O-ring in that groove nice. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the half shaft and refit it. So let me go and get my O-ring out of the fridge, and here we have it. Popping out there. Put the O-ring in that groove. Nice, okay. So I've already lubed up the inner oil seal so I don't rip it when I'm putting this shaft in. Just ease it in. There we go. And then you need to wobble the shaft around till you find the side gears in your diff at the other end. There we go. Align the splines, and that's it. And then so that O-ring seals between the alloy hub and your wheel flange. And there's a couple of countersunk screws. Drop them in, and all they're doing really is just supporting this half shaft wheel flange during disassembly, because realistically the wheel through these studs is going to clamp all this together really tight, so they don't need any Loctite, and you don't need to wang the shit out of them. Just give them a good nip up, And that's done, all reassembled. Yeah. Now the half shaft's in, I'm actually turning the diff and the other wheel and all the rest of it, so it's a lot more friction, a lot stiffer, but that's fine. So now what I need to do is I need to bolt on the rear caliper carrier onto the brackets. So let's do that now. Ta-da! And then I've given the disc surfaces a good squirt with a brake cleaner. I can fit my new brake pads with the anti-rattle shims. I'll just pop in. Like that. And then I'm going to refit the caliper like that. I wish it was easy as clicking your fingers, eh? So that's all on, that's cool. And literally just I'll plonk the wheel on. And start the nuts so I don't cross thread them. So I'll torque them up when it's back on the ground. And that's the next thing to do. Get rid of this fucking light. I've got to get it off these axle stands so I can top up the diff oil. So as you can see, I've got the car up on its Jenga blocks, the same ones that I use to set all the geometry and the ride heights. And these give me access to the car while it's at ride height. So as it would be as it's driving along. And that's important for topping up the diff oil, because the diff oil, I'll tuck under there and show you, but basically you fill it up through this hole until it pours out. And if I jack the body up and let the axle droop down, then the diff would be at the wrong angle and I'd overfill the diff, which you don't want to do, because the oil's going to piss out somewhere else because you've got too much in it. So let's get on that and show you what all that's about. So my Watts linkage cover, this finned aluminium part, is from Gartrack. And fortunately on the Gartrack ones, you've got a drain plug. So I've used that to drain all the old oil out of the diff, and that's lock wired so it doesn't come loose, because that would be a bit of a disaster. And then the fill plug is around the front of the pig's head. Let me swing you around there. So here is my combined fill and level plug, and I'll pop that out and I will fill that with oil until it drips out now that the car's at ride height. The oil I'm using will be this Castrol B7373 limited slip diff oil, and because of the alloy Watts linkage cover, there's a bit of extra capacity, so it will take about 1.2 1.3 litres. While I had the diff drained, I took the opportunity for another little improvement, and it's these pins here. So there's 2 bolts either side on both sides of the pig's head, and they secure the axle tubes into the axle case. And I was getting oil around here weeping from out of them, so it's just a standard thread. So what I've done for both of them is I've removed the old bolts, cleaned out all the threads, and I've put some new bolts in with some copper washers and some thread sealant on the threads, and torque them up nice and tight. So hopefully that will stop any oil leaking out through the threads and out the diff. And with the all topped up, that's that job sorted. So yeah, after being out on the road, all you can see is just the grease really from where I greased the oil seal to go in, but there's no oil all inside of that disc bell, and none on my new pads. The new pads are just bedding in, as you can see. They'll clear that disc face up as the pads bed in. So yeah, job done. Okay then, that's the end of all the work. I've been out the weekend, give it a good thrashing around, and come back, jacked it up, had a check, no leaks, mint. So job done. There's no leaks from any of the diff where I'd sealed it up, and the drain plug and the fill plug and those two bolts that secure the tubes into the pig's head. That's all nice and dry. Both hubs nice and dry. Brake pads are bedding in nice. Brakes start working great. Handbrake works as well. And so yeah, really pleased. Finish that off. One thing that was bugging me was not knowing where those brake discs come from. I mean, not that I need them, but like in the future, I didn't want to be stuck. Do you know what I mean? Not knowing. Turns out they're available. You can find them on eBay and places like that, and they sell them specifically for Group 4 fully floating Atlas axles. The problem is you're going to pay for it. They're already done, ready to bolt on, no problems, like right. Motorsport Tools website in Wales, £107.50 each, so £215 for a pair. Shop around a bit, you can find them a little bit cheaper, but fuck me, that's a lot of money, and it didn't sit well with me. So I decided to do something about it. While I had the discs off, I did myself a drawing, sketched out the discs, and I took down all the critical dimensions. And then with those dimensions, I went into the old brake disc catalogues, and I only bloody found them, didn't I? And here they are. So these are Citroen BX or Peugeot 305 from 1977 and Peugeot 405 up to 1993. And they're exactly the bloody same. They are those discs with two important differences. This hole is 66mm, it needs to be 85. And these four holes need to be enlarged to 15.3 to go over the studs on the Group 4 hub, like I showed you earlier when we was in the dirty shed. So a standard disc off a Peugeot 305, front brake disc, enlarge that hole and enlarge these holes, and you've got it. If you're searching for yourself, the main important dimensions are 265mm diameter, 10mm thick, and 27mm high from there to there, and there you go. And I bought these discs off eBay for 30 quid, the pair, delivered, brand fucking new. So yeah, a bit of a saving that, isn't it? So I'll get them machined, and they can sit there as a spare, and they owe me nothing really, and they certainly don't owe me 215 quid for a pair of bloody solid discs. So that's it. Sorry for waffling on. This video has been a bit of a long one. I've been trying to keep them a bit shorter, but there was a lot to cover, and I didn't realise when I started the video I'd end up doing both sides. So there we go. Even so, I hope you've learned something. I hope you found it interesting. And if you did, give us a thumbs up, give us a like on the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, as always. I love to read them, like to respond. And you can have your say on what you think I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So I better wrap it up. That's pretty much it. Thanks ever so much again. And I'll see you on the next one.